The night my husband tried to kill me, the champagne in my hand smelled like money and metal. From across the room, I watched Liam slide behind our bar, all charm and dimples and navy suit. 70 people packed into our Alexandria townhouse, laughing too loud, holding flutes of champagne they believed they'd always known I'd earn. $17 million for a nanofiltration patent, and apparently that made me worth noticing. He thought I wasn't looking. I saw his hand dip into his inside pocket, saw the small amber vial appear between his fingers. Not a shaky, last-minute impulse. Smooth, practiced. He uncapped it with his thumb, tilted it over the one glass everyone in that room knew was mine. My grandmother's cracked crystal flute, the one I'd used to toast every win since I was 18. 1, 2, 3 drops. He stirred it with his pinky like he was just being cute, then set the glass back on the bar, chip facing the room like a name tag. My name tag. My hands went ice cold. My face didn't move. Across the room, my mother-in-law Evelyn was center stage in her emerald dress, clutching her designer bag like a trophy, dabbing fake tears from the corners of her eyes. She loved any spotlight that wasn't on me. Tonight, she was rehearsing grief she thought she'd need later. Fine, I'd give her a performance. I crossed the room, smiling, accepting congratulations, my pulse pounding so hard I could hear it over the jazz playlist. At the bar, I picked up both glasses, mine, poisoned, and the safe one beside it. Liam was 3 steps behind me when I turned. Evelyn, I called, bright and sweet. You've been such a huge part of this journey. You should toast with something special. I pressed the cracked crystal into her hand, right there in front of half the room. She frowned for half a second, confused, then lifted it like a queen accepting a crown. When the glass shattered on my hardwood floor minutes later, and she collapsed, foam gathering at the corner of her mouth, everyone else screamed. I didn't. I just watched my husband's face as he realized the wrong woman was dying, and decided I was done playing the victim in a story he wrote for me. I didn't always live in a house full of secrets. There was a time the quiet meant peace, not danger. A time when I could walk from the basement lab to the kitchen without checking behind me. A time when Liam's smile didn't make my stomach tighten the way it does now, like I'm staring at a trap I laid for myself years ago. People think betrayal happens in one explosive moment. A sharp, clean break. They're wrong. It happens slowly, softly, in tiny, almost invisible cuts you don't feel until you're bleeding. Back then, our townhouse in Alexandria smelled like ethanol and burnt coffee. My basement lab was a maze of beakers, sample membranes, late-night ramen bowls, and equations scribbled on sticky notes. I lived in a world of numbers and molecules, predictable, loyal things. Liam lived upstairs in a world of connections, branding, and opportunities, which mostly meant he scheduled lunches and posted inspirational quotes on LinkedIn. We met in grad school, and yes, he really did show up to my research presentation with a handmade sign that said, "Go Ava, Queen of Atoms." My advisor scowled. I laughed. Liam whispered afterward that genius women deserved noisy support. Back then, he meant it. Or maybe I just wanted to believe he did. In those early years, he was my biggest cheerleader. He brought me takeout on lab nights, bragged about me to strangers, held my hand like he was proud to be the man beside me. When my experiments failed, and they failed a lot, he told me failure meant I was trying something worth doing. When I cried over rejection letters, he'd kiss my forehead and say, "They'll regret ignoring you, I won't." God, I was stupid enough to think loyalty like that lasted. The shift didn't happen all at once. It started after I saved us from our first financial disaster. Liam had poured money into some emerging tech investment group, run by a college friend who still lived with his parents. I found out when a collections notice arrived for an account I didn't even know existed. It was a Wednesday morning. I'd been awake for 36 hours. I remember opening the letter, staring at the number, and thinking I was hallucinating. He cried. He apologized. He said he was ashamed and terrified. I paid it off because I loved him. Because marriage meant carrying each other. Because I didn't realize that was the day I became the safety net instead of the partner. After that, he changed his story. He wasn't ashamed anymore. He was the ideas guy, the visionary. I was the execution. He handled networking. I handled everything else that cost actual money. He started saying things like, "You need me to look successful so people take you seriously. You can't show up to investor events like a lab rat. Let me handle the room. You wouldn't even know these people if not for me." And Evelyn added her poison drop by drop. She had perfected the art of smiling while peeling your skin. Sunday dinners at her house were a parade of backhanded compliments and gentle stabs. I'm sure Ava tries her best with Harper, though career women always struggle to be nurturing. Some wives don't mind their husbands supporting them, but Ava seems determined to prove something that cracked glass again. Honey, you know, real ladies collect new things, not cling to old ones. She always found a way to remind me I was temporary, replaceable, a guest in a family that would never truly accept me. Cole, Liam's older brother, wasn't much better. Tall, smug, and always dressed like a trust fund vampire, he played the role of the successful sibling, even though everyone in the family knew his real income came from borderline predatory loans. The first time he loaned Liam money, he called it a family discount. The interest rate would have made a loan shark blush. Still, I kept going. Because I believed in the work. Because Harper deserved stability. Because love is blinding when you don't realize you're bleeding from the tiny cuts. Those 3 years in the basement lab were brutal. Failed prototypes, late-night panic attacks, the constant fear I was wasting my life. And through it all, Liam painted the picture of the savvy husband supporting a rising star. He took credit for my grit, bragged about my genius, and quietly borrowed money behind my back. I should have seen it. The way he smiled at the patent announcement, the way Evelyn touched my shoulder like she was claiming me, the way Cole asked about financial protections as if he were already planning how to slice me apart. But I didn't. Not then. The cracks were there, though. In the glass I kept drinking from. In the marriage I kept patching. In the family that smiled too wide when I succeeded. I just didn't know the glass would be the thing he'd try to kill me with. If you've ever lived with someone who quietly benefits from your success, you know the shift when admiration turns into entitlement. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, eerily quiet, like a faucet dripping behind a closed bathroom door. You don't notice the flood until your feet are already wet. After those basement years, things changed faster than I could keep up with. My prototype finally worked, a membrane that could filter heavy metals at a fraction of the cost. 6 tech firms wanted meetings. 2 made offers. 1 flew me to San Francisco and begged to buy the patent outright. Liam walked around our house with the confidence of a man who'd discovered electricity. He started saying things like, "We did it," and "Our invention is going to change the world. Our invention." I'd look at my cracked fingertips, the chemical burns on my wrist, the journal filled with my handwriting, and wonder when the hour had started. But I let him have his victory lap. That's what you do when you love someone. You share the spotlight, even when you built the stage alone. Through it all, Evelyn found new ways to make my accomplishments small. That's lovely, dear. But patents don't always mean money. Oh, Liam must be so proud, carrying the family name into the tech world. I hope you haven't forgotten your duties as a wife. Success can make women distracted. And Harper, sweet Harper, absorbed everything. She was 12, old enough to understand the tension but too young to name it. She'd sit on the kitchen stool, doing her robotics homework, glancing between me and Liam like she was tracking weather patterns. "Mom," she whispered once, "why does Grandma talk to you like you're a guest?" Because I wanted to say. Because to her, I always would be. But I told her the kind lie. Some people love differently. By the time the patent offer hit $17 million, Evelyn acted like she'd been the one running experiments at 3 a.m. She hosted a brunch titled "Celebrating the Carter Legacy," as if my last name had anything to do with her bloodline. She insisted Harper wear pearls. She told me to soften my eyebrows because they made me look intimidating. That day, as we stood in her dining room surrounded by porcelain plates and fake French decor, she leaned close and said, "I hope you know this money belongs to the family. Don't let your ambition confuse you." It was the first time I felt something snap quietly, like a hairline fracture. I smiled at her anyway. "Of course," I said. Because what else could I say? I didn't yet understand she meant it literally. 2 weeks before the poisoning, Liam invited me to a networking dinner. He said it was with friends who believed in our future. Turned out to be two men in suits who talked exclusively to him, not me, about capital flow and managing large wins. I sat there eating cold risotto while Liam spoke like he was the brain behind the membrane. When I gently corrected them, just once Liam squeezed my thigh under the table. "Not now," he hissed. I shut up, but something in me filed that moment away. After dinner, Liam kissed my forehead and said, "You need to trust me with this big stuff. I'm protecting you, protecting me." The word "now" makes my skin crawl. But the moment that stays with me most didn't happen during a fight or a family dinner. It happened at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Harper was asleep. The house was quiet. I'd gone downstairs for water and found Liam in my lab, not touching anything, just standing there, staring at the shelves, the equipment, the notebooks. He didn't notice me at first. He whispered, almost to himself, "I deserve some of this." 4 words, soft, barely there, but they landed like a blade. I stepped backward so he wouldn't know I'd heard. My heart pounded in my ears all night. Looking back, that was the moment the betrayal stopped being subtle. I didn't know the vial existed yet. I didn't know Evelyn and Cole were helping him plot. I didn't know the plan was already forming. Poison, panic, paperwork, inheritance. But I could feel the air changing. He had crossed some internal line. I just didn't know how far he was willing to go. The cracked crystal glass, my grandmother's glass, became a symbol long before the night he tried to use it to kill me. It had survived moves, heartbreaks, victories. I kept it because it reminded me beginnings could come from broken things. I didn't know it would become the beginning of the end. There's a moment between fear and clarity where your mind feels split open like cold light pouring into a room you didn't realize was dark. For me, that moment came standing over Evelyn's collapsing body, the poisoned champagne bubbling on the floor, Liam's breath catching behind me like a man watching his own crime play out in the wrong direction. Most people think survival is instinct. It's not. Survival is strategy. Survival is choosing silence over chaos until you know exactly where the exits are. While the guests screamed and someone called 911, I didn't join the panic. I knelt beside Evelyn, pressed 2 fingers to her neck, and made my voice tremble just enough to sound concerned. Inside, I wasn't afraid for her. I was calculating dosage, symptoms, onset time. I knew aconite when I saw it. I knew she wouldn't die if treated fast. And I knew the hospital would run tox screens. That was the moment I decided. I wasn't going to expose him. Not yet. I was going to study him. Like a failed experiment, I wasn't done diagnosing. Everything after that became a project. In my head, I titled it Operation Stay Alive. Objective 1, protect Harper. Objective 2, stay calm. Objective 3, gather data. Real, time-stamped, undeniable data. That meant no shouting, no confrontation, no emotional outbursts he could twist into "Ava's unstable, I'd seen what men like him did when cornered." I wasn't giving him any ammunition. Instead, I split the battlefield in 2, the scientific front, preserving the glass, documenting symptoms, analyzing residue, tracking Liam's behavior like observing a volatile compound. The legal front, calling Rachel, the only lawyer I trusted, and saying one sentence that changed everything. "I need you to listen without asking why." We built a checklist. Duplicate every file, freeze the glass, update passwords, install hidden cameras, create honeypot accounts. Every move executed with the precision of a lab protocol. And then I drew my final rule. Sharp enough to cut. I will not confront him until the evidence can bury him. That was the night I stopped being his wife and became his consequence. Progress isn't pretty. People like to imagine it as a glow-up montage, the kind with upbeat music and soft lighting. Mine started under the harsh fluorescent lights of an ER room, sitting beside the woman who'd spent a decade undermining me while a tox screen tried to decide whether she lived or died. Evelyn lay on the hospital bed, skin ashen, breath shallow, mascara streaked down her face like cracked paint. A nurse adjusted the IV while I stood there, hands folded, face calm. Inside, though, my mind was a storm, map colors shifting, patterns emerging, everything funneling toward one truth. Liam meant for it to be me. Dr. Priya Nair stepped in with her tablet pressed to her chest. Soft voice, hair pulled into a tight ponytail, eyes sharper than her tone. "She's stable," she said, "but there are markers consistent with alkaloid exposure. We're sending samples to the lab for confirmation." I didn't even pretend to be surprised. "Let me guess," I said, loud enough for the charting nurse to hear. "It's from the champagne she drank at my house." The nurse's pen froze. Good. That was a timestamp. A witness. A breadcrumb. Priya narrowed her eyes just slightly. "Why would you suggest that?" "Because," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "She drank from a specific glass. Mine, and she collapsed minutes later." I didn't blame Priya for the hint of suspicion that crossed her face. If roles were reversed, I would have looked at me the same way. Wife throws a party. Mother-in-law drinks wrong glass. Mother-in-law ends up poisoned. It was the perfect setup. If I hadn't seen the attempt with my own eyes. While Evelyn was rushed for further scans, I excused myself to the hallway and dialed Rachel. "It's aconite," I whispered. "I'm sure of it." "Ava," she murmured, a low exhale slipping through the phone. "Tell me everything. And I need every detail, like you're writing a lab report." So I did. Word for word, action for action, drop for drop. By the time I finished, she already had a plan forming. "Aconite will show up," she said, "and the fact she lived complicates his narrative. He'll panic. We need to use that." I leaned against the wall, letting the cool paint calm my skin. "What's our next step?" "Two fronts," she answered. "Documentation and surveillance. And you need to act completely normal. Act normal. Pretend the man who shared my bed hadn't just tried to erase me from the world. Easy." When I returned home, the house felt different. Not haunted, observed. Every object looked like evidence. Every shadow felt like motive. But I walked inside like nothing had changed. Liam was in the kitchen when I entered, leaning against the counter with a glass of whiskey. He turned, face arranged in a mask of concern. "Babe, how is she?" Fake softness, fake worry, fake everything, stable. I said doctors think it was something she drank. His fingers tightened around the glass. The muscle in his jaw jumped. "Drank? What does that mean?" I shrugged, pretending to be tired, instead of calculating. "I don't know. They're testing." He nodded slowly, cautiously, the way someone nods when they're waiting to hear whether their secret is safe. "Good," he said. "Keep me updated. I'll call Mom's friends." Then he kissed my cheek light, gentle, practiced, and walked upstairs. The moment he disappeared, Harper poked her head out from the hallway. "Mom," she whispered, "is Grandma going to be okay?" I crouched to her level. "Yes, she'll be fine. And Dad?" she asked. "Why did he leave the party so fast?" I swallowed. "Sometimes grown-ups get scared," I said, "and they don't know how to act." It wasn't a lie. Not really. The next 48 hours were the blueprint of Operation Stay Alive. I started by freezing the cracked crystal glass. Slipped it inside a labeled evidence bag from my lab supplies. Logged temperature, time, and condition. I treated it like a sample that might save my life, because it would. Then came digital fortification, password changes, two-factor authentication, hidden folders with innocuous names, encrypted backups in cloud servers Liam didn't know existed. Rachel sent me a list of cases: women, institutionalized by spouses, families stealing inheritances, husbands framing wives as unstable. Each case felt like reading the future Liam wanted for me. By the second night, I moved to the financial front. I opened my bank app and my stomach twisted. Transfers I didn't recognize, withdrawals I never approved, debt accounts that hadn't existed last year, a whole network of Liam's lies woven through our shared life. Harper wandered into the living room with her laptop and sat beside me silently. She wasn't the kind of kid who asked too many questions. She observed. She connected dots. "Mom," she said finally, "did Dad use your lab card again? Look." She turned her laptop toward me. A set of automated emails notified a small transfer from my research fund to a personal account under the name M. Reed. My heart stopped. Mason, my former lab partner. The man I hadn't spoken to in a year. At first, panic flared. Was he involved? Was this bigger than Liam? But then the truth untangled itself. I had transferred that money months ago. a small loan, a secret apology after our partnership fell apart. I never told Liam, but apparently, he'd found proof and planned to twist it into a narrative I was being blackmailed or emotionally unstable. Harper watched me closely. "Mom? Dad's hiding something, isn't he?" I didn't answer, but she saw enough in my face. The next morning, Jasmine Lee arrived to install the cameras. She was small, fast, sharp, one of those people who could walk into a room and know exactly where every cord and outlet lived. While she drilled mounts and configured the cloud backups, Liam hovered like a cat pretending not to care. "What's all this for?" he asked casually. "Security," I said. "Just being careful now that the patent's sold." He smiled at that too quickly. Too relieved, Jasmine shot me a look that said she noticed. Once the cameras were up, once the backups were syncing. Once Harper had gone to bed and Liam retreated to his office. I finally exhaled. For the first time since the party, I felt the faintest shift in the air. Not safety, not peace, but traction. Like the first inch of rope pulling taut when you're climbing out of a well. I wasn't just surviving. I was preparing. Progress comes in strange shapes. Sometimes it's a breakthrough. Sometimes it's a breath that doesn't tremble. Sometimes it's simply waking up and realizing you're not afraid of the morning anymore. For me, progress began with patterns. Liam's patterns, his tells, his slip-ups. Once I began observing him the way I observed unstable compounds in the lab, things that once confused me suddenly made perfect sense. The third morning after the poisoning, I woke before dawn. The house was quiet, but not peaceful, more like the quiet before a storm hits the coastline. I walked downstairs barefoot, the hardwood cool against my skin, and there he was, Liam, sitting in the dark, hunched forward, elbows on his knees, staring at his phone screen like it held the last piece of oxygen in the world. He didn't notice me at first. I watched as he typed something, deleted it, typed again. His shoulders shook with a silent, frustrated exhale. "What are you doing up?" I asked softly. He jolted, nearly dropping the phone. "Jesus, Ava, don't sneak up on me. Sneak up on him." A week ago, he would have pulled me into his arms. Now he guarded his phone like it was a lifeline he couldn't afford to lose. "I couldn't sleep," he added, rubbing his face. "Thinking about Mom, of course," I murmured. "How's she doing? She's unconscious." Again, his voice cracked in a way I almost believed. "Doctors say she's responding." Whatever that means, I nodded. "They're running more tests." That caught him. His eyes flicked up, sharp, alert. "Tests. Yes, toxicology. They think she ingested something, the way he inhaled, too fast, too shallow, told me everything." But I kept my face blank, neutral, unaware. He turned the phone face down on the coffee table. "I'm going to try to sleep. Wake me up if the hospital calls." "Sure." Like he'd sleep. The moment he walked upstairs, I circled around to his chair and checked the cushion. Warm. He'd been sitting there for hours. I leaned close and listened. Nothing. No footsteps upstairs. No movement. Then I picked up his phone, not to unlock it. His passcode had changed again, but to look at the smudges. 5 fresh ones. Right thumb. Nervous tapping. He wasn't confident. He was unraveling, and I wasn't even done with him yet. That afternoon, Rachel came by. She didn't come inside too risky, but we sat on the back porch with mugs of cooling tea. "Tell me about Liam today," she said, flipping open her binder. "He's cracking," I said. "He thinks the hospital will figure it out. He's waiting for a call that will confirm whether he gets away with murder." She looked up sharply. "Attempted murder." I stared at the yard, the dying hydrangeas Harper planted last spring. "Right. Attempted." Rachel outlined our next moves. "Set digital traps. If Liam logged into any of the honeypot accounts, we'd have proof of financial manipulation. Log behavioral changes. Paranoia. Sudden overprotectiveness of his phone. Late-night disappearances. Secure Harper. No unsupervised time. No rides with him alone. Feed him calm. Act normal to lower his guard. Think of him like a volatile sample," she said. "Stirring him too fast makes him explode. Let him stabilize. Then we contain." It was clinical, logical. Exactly what I needed. That night, Harper tiptoed into my room. "Mom, yes, sweetheart. Dad was on the phone earlier. He was whispering. He said something about a deadline. A deadline. Cole. I tucked her hair behind her ear. Did he see you listening? She shook her head. No. He thought I was in the shower. Good girl, observant, careful. Too smart for the world she was being dragged into. Mom, she whispered, voice trembling just slightly. Are we safe? That question split through me. I didn't lie this time. We will be, I said. I promise you that. The next day, I noticed new cracks in Liam's mask. He spilled his coffee twice, snapped at Harper over nothing, slammed cabinets, but his breakdown wasn't loud. It was sloppy. He was slipping. That evening, Jasmine messaged me. Auto backup confirmed. Hidden cloud server active. Perfect. Now I needed evidence he couldn't explain. I found it 2 nights later. Liam got a text at 11:43 p.m. His phone lit up on the nightstand. Cole. We need that money. Tomorrow, Liam. Don't make me come over. He snatched the phone before I could accidentally see more. But he didn't know I'd already installed a keylogger on our shared laptop, or that I could access his online banking from a shadow account Rachel helped set up. Midnight. Kitchen. Laptop screen glowing in the dark. I watched as Liam tried 3 times to access the Honeypot Trust account we'd fabricated, lured in by the promise of funds he was never going to touch. 3 attempts, 3 timestamps. Clear motive. Clear behavior. He tried to move money that didn't exist, to cover debts he shouldn't have had, from a woman he had tried to kill. And the moment he realized the transfer failed, he punched the kitchen wall so hard the picture frame beside him fell and cracked on the tile. He didn't know the camera above the fridge caught the entire thing. The next morning, he was back to supportive husband mode, making pancakes badly, humming off-key, kissing Harper's forehead like he wasn't the reason she'd started sleeping with a nightlight again. Rough night, I said casually. He looked at me sharply. What do you mean I heard something fall? I replied. Thought maybe a raccoon broke in. His throat bobbed. Just dropped something. His tells were showing everywhere. That afternoon, while he was out running errands, Mason Reed called me back. Hearing his voice after a year felt like reopening an old wound, but this time, the pain wasn't mine. Ava? I got your voicemail. What's going on? I hesitated. Then I told him the truth. Not everything, just enough. Jesus, he breathed. I had no idea. And that payment? If your husband tries to drag me into anything, I'll testify. Hell, I'll show the emails proving it was a loan you insisted on. Ava, whatever you need, I'm an unexpected ally, unexpected strength. By the time Liam returned home, something in me had shifted. Not confidence, not victory, but clarity. A razor-cut understanding of exactly who he was and exactly who I needed to become to stop him. When he walked through the door, he smiled like a man in control. Like a man with options. I smiled back like a woman who had already mapped his downfall molecule by molecule, because progress isn't becoming stronger. Progress is realizing you already were. Complications don't arrive like storms. Storms are honest, loud, visible, impossible to ignore. Complications arrive like humidity, slowly, invisibly, making it harder to breathe long before you realize the air has changed. The first complication hit the morning Evelyn woke up. I was in the kitchen pouring Harper's cereal when Liam walked in, pale and shaken, holding his phone like it was a detonator. She's awake, he said. I didn't react good, I replied, sliding the bowl toward Harper. How's she feeling? She doesn't remember anything, he said quickly. Too quickly. Doctors said it could have been dehydration. Dehydration. A mother-in-law collapses, foaming at the mouth from aconite symptoms, and his chosen narrative was dehydration. It was almost pathetic, almost. But the real complication wasn't that he lied. It was that he believed I might believe it, or that he needed me to. Poor thing, I said softly. Tell her I'm thinking of her. He blinked, thrown off by my calmness. I almost smiled. Later that day, while Harper was at robotics club, Liam cornered me in the laundry room. The dryer hummed behind me, filling the silence. We should talk, he said. About what? He ran a hand through his hair, rehearsed, worry etched across his face. About you. You've been distant. I've been busy. Busy. he repeated, like the word offended him. You didn't sleep next to me last night. I was reviewing lab documents. I lied. His eyes sharpened. You're acting strange. There it was, his first attempt at flipping the narrative. Not. I tried to kill you, but you're acting strange. I'm fine, Liam. He exhaled through his nose, frustrated Ava. With everything happening, we need to stick together. I folded a sweatshirt. We are together. No, he said, stepping closer. I mean it. I need to know you're okay. After everything with Mom. Ah. There it was. He needed to gauge whether I suspected him. I kept folding laundry like we were discussing weather patterns. I'm okay, just tired. He watched me for a beat too long. I could feel him trying to read my face, trying to find cracks, but I didn't break. Not anymore. The second complication came disguised as something innocent, an invitation. Evelyn requested tea with Harper. Harper told me at dinner, poking her fork into roasted carrots. Grandma texted me. She wants to talk privately. I froze. Only inwardly. About what? I asked lightly. She said, family stability. Liam's fork paused mid-air. His eyes flicked toward me. Harper kept talking. Oblivious. She told me not to tell you. But I didn't like that, so I'm telling you. Good girl. Loyal in all the ways her father wasn't. Liam forced a chuckle. Your grandma is just dramatic. But I recognized the move instantly. Evelyn was trying to plant seeds, doubt, fear, confusion, maybe even stories about my stress or mental fragility. Rachel had warned me. When men like Liam realize poisoning didn't work, they pivot to institutionalization, and they always recruit someone close, preferably a child, preferably the quiet, impressionable one. Harper wasn't impressionable. Not anymore. We'll think about it, I told her, but you're not going anywhere alone. Liam's jaw hardened. Strike one. Complication 3 arrived the next morning. Disguised as help, the doorbell rang at 9 a.m. A polished woman in a blazer and soft makeup stood on the steps. Hi. I'm Monica from Silverwood Estates. Liam reached out. Of course he did. Silverwood was the upscale wellness center Rachel had flagged. The place where wealthy spouses stashed partners they wanted legally deemed incompetent. I held the door only halfway open. This isn't a good time. Monica smiled like all salespeople smile, gentle, practiced, predatory. I completely understand. These conversations are sensitive. Liam mentioned you've been overwhelmed. Totally normal after a major financial shift. Our program helps. I didn't ask for your program. Oh, totally. Husbands often call first because they see the signs: stress, sleep disruption, emotional confusion. I'm not confused, I said. She blinked but kept smiling. Why don't I leave some pamphlets? We specialize in supporting women through transitions. Transitions. She meant losing my freedom. Leave them, I said, grabbing the papers. I'll read them. Liam appeared behind me. Thanks, Monica. We'll talk soon. And the way she perked up told me Liam had promised her money. Lots of it. When she left, I turned to him. Why her? He shrugged. Too casual. Just preparing options. After what happened with my mom, we need to make sure you're okay emotionally. Emotionally, not physically, not mentally. Emotionally, as in unstable enough to justify a wellness commitment. I stared at him. You think I need a facility? No, he said, stepping closer, palms raised. Not yet, not yet. That phrase echoed through my skull like a siren. Complication 4 hit in the evening like a punch to the ribs. Cole showed up. A black SUV rolled into our driveway, loud music pounding through the windows. Cole stepped out wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky, smiling like a man who thought he was charming. Ava, he said, arms wide. Congratulations on the patent payday, Cole, I replied flatly. He walked inside without being invited. We need to chat. Liam followed behind him, face tight. Harper slipped upstairs, silently, good instincts. Cole tossed his jacket onto the couch and leaned against my kitchen island. So, here's the deal, he said. Mom's hospital bills are stacking up. Liam's been stressed. The family needs stability. His eyes raked over me. If you could transfer 400 grand to Evelyn just to hold the house, we'd all be good. 400,000. I stared at him. Why do you need my money? He smirked. It's family money. Family. Right. I crossed my arms. No, he laughed. Sweetheart, you can be generous, or you can be difficult. Difficult women don't fare well in this family. I stepped closer, lowering my voice to a blade. You don't scare me, Cole smirked, glanced at Liam. Then maybe Liam should explain what happens when debts aren't paid. And that was it. The truth slipped out like a drunk confession. Liam owed Cole. Cole wanted my money. And together, they'd try to control me to get it. Complications everywhere. But I wasn't drowning. Not anymore. Complications multiply when the person trying to control you realizes you're slipping out of his hands. They grow teeth. They grow speed. They grow desperate. The night after Cole's visit, the house felt heavier, like someone had stuffed anxiety into the vents. Liam tried to play normal. Made pasta. Lit candles. Put on music. But his hands shook when he grated cheese, and he kept glancing at me like he was waiting for a confession I'd never give. Halfway through dinner, he reached across the table and touched my wrist. Ava, he said, voice low. I know things have been tense, I repeated. I'm just worried about you. There it was again. The narrative he needed. The breadcrumb trail he was trying to lay. The concerned husband script. Why, I asked, keeping my tone steady. Because your mother got sick at my party. His jaw twitched. You've been off, distracted, forgetful. The word was calculated. The first step in creating a pattern of decline. I leaned back in my chair. What exactly do you think I've forgotten? He froze. He hadn't expected pushback. He needed me confused, not sharp. I'm not accusing you, he said quickly. I'm just saying, maybe with the stress, you're overwhelmed. Overwhelmed. I almost laughed. Instead, I stood, collected dishes, loaded the dishwasher. Behind me, he said softly. Monica can help you. Silverwood can help our family. Our family. I shut the dishwasher door hard enough to make the plates clatter. Then I turned and met his eyes. I don't need help, I said. I need honesty. His pupils shrank. He recovered too fast, Ava. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. The tone in his voice wasn't love. It was calculation. The tone of a man tightening a net he thought I couldn't see. Later that night, I found Harper in her room, curled up with her robotics kit, pieces scattered like tiny metal bones. She looked up. Mom, is Dad mad at you? No, I said gently. He's unsure what to do next. That makes people act strange. She hesitated. Grandma called me again. I sat beside her. What did she say? She said, you're stressed, that sometimes moms forget things, that dads have to help. She traced a wire with her thumb. I don't like the way she said it, like she wanted me to be scared. My chest tightened. Of course, Evelyn was already building her own narrative. A fragile, overwhelmed daughter-in-law. A confused mother. A responsible son. Did you tell her you were scared? I asked. No, Harper said. I told her you're the smartest person I know. I swallowed hard. Thank you. She didn't like that answer, Harper added. She said, smart people break the hardest. Smart people break the hardest. Evelyn wasn't just playing games. She was escalating, and Liam was letting her. The next complication came during what they called a family financial review, which Liam scheduled without asking me. He claimed the accountant recommended it. No accountant existed. I walked into the living room to find Evelyn on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders, Cole leaning against the fireplace, and Liam standing like he was hosting an intervention. Monica was there too. Of course she was. Ava, she said warmly. Thank you for joining us. As if I'd been invited. As if this was a meeting I had asked for. What is this? I asked. Liam gestured toward the coffee table, where a stack of documents sat neatly arranged. We want to talk about stability. For the family. For Harper, I looked at the stack. Property forms. Power of attorney drafts. A pre-admission packet for Silverwood Estates. My pulse slowed. Not slowed. A cold clarity washed over me. You want me, I said, to sign myself into a wellness center. No, Liam said. Just consider it. So professionals can help you manage. Manage what? I cut in my success. Evelyn sucked her teeth. Don't be dramatic, dear. We're trying to help. By taking my rights, I asked. My autonomy, Cole shrugged. You've been under strain. Big money does that to women. Big money does that to women. I almost applauded the line. It was so perfectly smug, so perfectly sexist, I could have recorded it for evidence. Monica stepped forward, clasping her hands. Ava, these forms don't commit you. They just allow Liam to make decisions if you're impaired. Impaired. Liam didn't correct her. I looked around the room at the 3 people who wanted to erase me and the one who wanted to profit from it. You brought a wellness rep into my living room, I said slowly to talk about removing my decision-making. Ava, Liam said, voice softening, you're not listening. No, I said, you're not listening. I picked up the packet, flipped through the pages, read lines under diagnoses that didn't belong to me. Potential symptoms conveniently vague. I looked Liam dead in the eye. You did research, I said. You planned this. He stiffened. You're twisting things. No, I said, you are. Harper's small footsteps creaked at the top of the stairs. She peeked down. Worry etched across her face. Liam noticed. His expression shifted quickly, too quickly, into one of gentle concern. Harper, he called, softly. We're just talking to help Mom. I stepped in front of the staircase. Go upstairs, honey. Close your door. Harper nodded and backed away. I turned back to Liam, Evelyn, Cole, and Monica. This meeting is over, I said. You don't get to decide that, Cole snapped. Actually, I said quietly, I do. And then, without ceremony, I gathered every document, every form, every pre-admission lie, and fed them, page by page, into the fireplace. The flame caught fast. The crackling filled the room. Evelyn gasped. Cole cursed. Monica stepped back. Liam just stared, jaw clenched so tight the muscle jumped. When the last page turned to ash, I met Liam's eyes. You want control, I said, but you chose the wrong woman to cage. His voice dropped to a whisper. You're making a mistake. No, I whispered back. You did that night, as I lay awake listening to the house breathe. The complications didn't scare me. They clarified the battlefield. And they told me exactly how desperate Liam would become before he broke. Climaxes don't happen in darkness. They happen under lights, harsh, fluorescent, unforgiving lights. Lights that leave no place to hide. The morning of the confrontation began almost normally. The sky over McLean was a dull, winter gray, the kind that made everything look flat and colorless. Harper sat at the table eating toast while I packed her lunch. Liam pretended to scroll emails, but he barely touched his coffee. His knee bounced under the table like a trapped animal. He'd been restless since the intervention. Since the documents burned. Since I stopped giving him the emotional oxygen he needed to manipulate me. He'd tried everything. Apologies, accusations, silence, charm. Nothing worked. And he knew it. At 8:14 a.m., his phone buzzed. Evelyn. Bank meeting confirmed. Bring Ava. A second text followed instantly. Monica. I'll meet you both outside. Today is important. Important. That was one word for it. I slid Harper's lunchbox toward her. Rachel will pick you up after school. Go straight to her car. Okay. She nodded, chewing carefully. Will Dad be there? No, I said. Not today. She didn't push further. Harper was intuitive. She sensed things adults tried to hide. She hugged me longer than usual before leaving. When the door closed behind her, silence filled the kitchen, thick, swelling, unnatural. Liam cleared his throat. So he said, we should leave soon. For what? I asked. His eyes flicked upward. The appointment, what appointment? He hated that game, the one where I forced him to say the lies out loud instead of letting him wrap them in soft implications. The meeting at Suncrest, he said. It's just a simple financial clarification. Routine, routine. Every lie was turning thinner, more brittle. I rinsed a glass. Do I need to bring anything? He hesitated. Just your ID, because power of attorney papers require one. Great, I said lightly. Let's go. He stared at me a second too long, trying to interpret my calmness. Then he grabbed his jacket. Outside, the December air bit the skin. Liam unlocked the car. As he reached for the passenger door handle, I spoke, I'll drive. He blinked. Throne, what I want to drive. He hesitated, then handed me the keys. If he suspected why, he didn't say, but I wasn't letting him sit behind me, not today. The 20-minute drive to Suncrest was quiet, except for the clicking of the turn signal and the occasional buzz of Liam's phone in his pocket. He didn't check it. That told me he was scared. Scared people avoid information. Suncrest Bank sat on the corner of a corporate park, glass, walled, modern, expensive. The type of place that screams legitimacy even when shady things happen behind closed doors. Monica stood outside, arms wrapped in a beige coat, smiling like a flight attendant, welcoming passengers onto a burning plane. "Good morning," she chirped as we approached. "You two ready?" Liam nodded stiffly. I didn't nod at all. She led us inside, heels clicking across the marble floor. The lobby smelled like polished stone and stale coffee. A security guard nodded at Liam. He must have been here more times than I realized. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The doors slid open to a quiet hallway lined with glass offices. Ethan Ward, the bank manager, stood at the end of it, holding a binder. "Morning," he said, shaking Liam's hand. "This shouldn't take long. They always say that about the worst moments of your life." As we stepped into the conference room, the cold air hit me first. The AC was too high, making the glass walls fog at the corners. A rectangular table sat in the center, spotless. A carafe of water, 4 glasses, papers neatly clipped, and chairs, 8 of them. I knew instantly we weren't alone. Rachel and Detective Elena Morales entered through the adjoining door like they'd been waiting for the exact second we arrived. Morales in her navy blazer and neutral expression, Rachel with a closed leather folder hugged to her chest like a weapon. Liam's face drained of color. "What is this?" he asked, voice tightening. Rachel smiled politely. "A clarification meeting. You said it was routine, didn't you, Liam?" Morales crossed her arms. "Mind if we join?" Ethan's eyes darted between them and Liam like he'd accidentally walked into a crime documentary. Yes. Sure." Liam turned to me, panic barely contained. "You invited them. I thought extra clarity might help," I said softly. He swallowed. Monica took a seat beside Liam, placing her silverwood folder on the table. Evelyn and Cole weren't here, small mercy, but their fingerprints were all over everything. We sat. The door closed. That was when the temperature in the room dropped for real. Not because of the AC, but because secrets don't survive bright rooms. Ethan cleared his throat. "So, we're here to review recent transactions and confirm account holders' intentions regarding the trust, assets, and the line of credit." Liam cut him off. "Actually, I'd like a private conversation with my wife first." "No," Rachel said immediately. "Everything stays in this room," he snapped toward her. "With all due respect, this is a family matter." "This," Morales said, "is an official matter." Liam's jaw clenched. His eyes flicked to the door like he might bolt. Ethan flipped open the binder. "Before we continue, I need to verify the identity of the primary account holder." He looked at me. "Ava, can I see your ID?" I handed it to him. Not shaking, not blinking. He scanned it into the system. "Thank you. Now, regarding account 7,392, Liam straightened, confidence returning. "Yes, we need to reassign control temporarily. My wife's been—" "Stop," I said. The word cut through the room like a blade. Liam froze. "Proceed, Ethan," I said calmly. The manager nodded, scrolling. "Account 7,392 is currently active, but holds a balance of $50. Silence. Not confusion, shock. Liam blinked, his mouth parting. "What? $50? Ethan repeated. "Last month the account held over 6 figures. Today, 50. Rachel leaned back. "We'll get to that." Monica frowned, whispering, "That affects the care plan." I almost laughed. Liam turned to me slowly. "What did you do?" "You mean," I asked, "what did I protect?" He stood abruptly, palms pressing into the table. "This is ridiculous. She's been under stress. She's unstable. She burned legal documents in our home." "Did she?" Morales asked, pen poised. "Could you provide evidence?" He hesitated. "Well, camera footage," she pressed. His eyes flicked to the ceiling, where he assumed the cameras only recorded locally. Rachel watched him like a shark smells blood. "Funny thing about cameras," she said. "They often have cloud backups." He stilled, dead still. The moment stretched, taut and dangerous. "Let's talk about something else," Rachel said, folding her hands. "Login attempts." She slid a printed sheet across the table. 3 attempts to access a trust account belonging solely to Ava Carter. Logged from your device? Liam. His throat worked. "That's not... I didn't. Maybe it auto-filled." "Attempting to move funds from a spouse's protected account is fraud," Rachel said, "especially when paired with medical evidence of poisoning." Monica gasped. Quietly. Poisoning Ethan looked like he wanted to melt into his chair. Liam's voice pitched low. "Ava is confused. She's been having episodes..." Morales raised a hand. "Let me stop you right there." She opened her folder and laid out her own documents. Hospital tox results, time-stamped statements, printed search history. "Your mother's toxicology report came back," Morales said. "Aconite, high concentration, same symptoms Ava would have had if she'd drunk from that glass." Liam's face collapsed inward. Rachel added the final blow. "Funny thing? The glass is intact. Frozen. Preserved," Ethan whispered. "Oh my God." I leaned forward, quiet, controlled. "Tell me, Liam," I said. "What did you think would happen? That I'd drink? Collapse? That you'd cry over my body and inherit everything?" He pointed at me with a trembling hand. "You're twisting this. You're sick, Ava. You're..." "No," I said. "I'm awake." The room held its breath. Then the door opened. Agent Daniel Price stepped in, badge flashing, voice steady. "Liam Carter," he said, "you're under arrest for attempted murder, financial fraud, and conspiracy to commit asset misappropriation." Liam staggered back as the officers moved toward him. "No, wait, Ava. Please." But I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't offer him a single ounce of mercy. The cuffs clicked, lights hummed, papers rustled, someone exhaled. And for the first time in months, I felt oxygen fill my lungs completely. The moment the cuffs locked around Liam's wrists, the world inside that glass-walled conference room shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It wasn't dramatic in the way movies are. It was quiet eerily, beautifully quiet. Like the air had finally decided to stop suffocating me. Liam didn't fight the officers. He didn't shout. He didn't lunge for me. His entire body sagged forward as if someone had cut the strings holding him upright. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, like a man realizing the universe wasn't bending to his plans anymore. "Ava," he breathed, trying to twist toward me as the officers guided him back into a chair. "Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. We can explain..." "Explain what?" Rachel interrupted coolly. "Which part should she explain, your attempt to poison her or your attempt to steal her assets?" He shook his head violently. No, that's not. She's twisting things. She's been off. She's unstable, Elena. You know this." Morales tucked her pen behind her ear. "My name is Detective Morales. Use it. Then. And I know you've been lying." He swallowed hard. "You don't understand. This is all a misunderstanding. I was trying to protect my family." "By drugging your mother?" I asked. His face went blank. Ghost white. "I didn't drug her. That wasn't meant for her." He stopped himself too late. Monica, still seated across the table, gasped softly and pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. She wasn't prepared for this level of darkness. She'd walked into the meeting thinking we were having some upscale, spa-themed intervention. Instead, she'd become a witness to a felony arrest. Ethan, the bank manager, sat frozen in place, eyes wide, binder untouched. He kept blinking like he was trying to reboot his brain. Liam tried again, voice cracking. "Ava, please. If you just explain that you've been stressed, maybe." "Stressed," I repeated. "You poisoned your own mother, Liam." "I didn't," he snapped, raising his voice for the first time. "You weren't supposed to touch that glass." "But she did," I said, "because you put it in her hand." He flinched like I'd slapped him. Then his eyes narrowed. "You gave it to her. You switched the glasses. You're the one who..." "No, I said quietly. I just didn't drink what you planned for me. Agent Price stepped forward. Mr. Carter, I'm going to advise you to stop speaking unless it's to request a lawyer. Liam sat back heavily. His breathing turned shallow. He stared at me as though trying to hypnotize me into regretting everything. Then his voice softened, trembling around the edges. I loved you, Ava. That I said was never the truth. You loved control. You loved money. You loved the idea of being important. But me? No. You loved standing next to me with your hand on my waist, so it looked like you were part of the story I built. He blinked hard. Is that what you think? No, I said. It's what I know. Silence fell over the room again. This time, it was him who broke. His shoulders curled inward. His eyes glistened. His voice, when he spoke, came out small. Please don't do this. But it wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It was fear. Raw, selfish fear. The kind of fear a man feels when he realizes he's no longer the one dictating the rules. Rachel looked at me, a silent question in her eyes. Are you ready for the final reveal? I nodded. She opened her folder and pulled out the last piece of evidence, the printed screenshots, Liam's search history. Morales slid them across the table to him. He stared, then shut his eyes. How to use aconite without taste. Morales read aloud. Spousal inheritance laws, Virginia. How long does aconite stay in system? Liam's voice was barely audible. I was scared. Debt. Pressure. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't trying to stop talking, Price warned again. But Liam leaned forward, tears streaking down his cheeks, his voice cracking on every word. Ava, please. I didn't want to lose everything. I thought if you weren't able to manage your assets could be handled. By you, I asked. He didn't answer. That was answer enough. The officers pulled him to his feet. Before they led him toward the door, he spoke again, quieter, colder than before. I never meant for things to go this far. You meant for them to go far enough, I said. Far enough that I wasn't here to catch you. For the first time, Liam didn't argue. They escorted him out of the conference room. The glass door swung shut behind them with a soft click that echoed in my chest like a gunshot. I didn't breathe until I heard the elevator doors close. When the sound faded, the room fell into a stunned quiet. Ethan rubbed his forehead. My God, he whispered. Is this real? Very, Rachel said, and we'll need to go over every account he touched. Monica's lips trembled. She lifted her silverwood folder like it was radioactive. I had no idea. I thought he genuinely wanted help for her. I didn't. That's how men like Liam work, Rachel said. They don't present as monsters. They present as caretakers. Monica swallowed. I'm so sorry. I won't be part of this anymore. Good, I said. She left quickly, her heels clicking frantically as if she might outrun the guilt chasing her. Ethan turned to me, Mrs. Carter. I want you to know we'll cooperate fully with law enforcement. This bank won't be used for anything illegal. Thank you, I said. He gathered the binder, still shaken, then excused himself. That left me, Rachel, and Detective Morales. Morales sat across from me, elbows on the table, face calm but kind. You handled this well, she said. Most people panic. I did, I admitted, just not today. Rachel leaned closer. Are you okay for the first time? I felt the room tilt. The adrenaline that had been holding up my spine began slipping away. My knees softened, my throat tightened. My voice cracked. I don't know what I am. Morales nodded softly. Shock comes later. Let it. I pressed my palms to the cool glass table. Harper can never know. I hesitated. Even for a moment she won't, Rachel said. Because you didn't. But she didn't see me that night, staring at the glass, wondering whether I should pretend not to see. She didn't hear my heartbeat thundering as I changed the fate of one woman for another. She didn't know how long I stood in the hallway afterward, unable to breathe. Next steps, I asked, grounding myself in logistics. Morales opened her notebook. We'll need formal statements from you and Harper. The evidence is strong. The DA will move quickly. And Evelyn and Cole, I asked. They're involved, she said. The investigation will follow the money and the communications. We'll likely call them in soon. Rachel exhaled. This is the beginning of the end for them, but it wasn't over for me. Not yet. Because as the tension in the room began to settle, a sharp, Almost electric thought cut through me. Liam wasn't the only danger. He wasn't the only one who'd tried to frame me, corner me, control me. Evelyn, Cole, Monica, all of them had played a part, even if some of them didn't know what game they were in. And they wouldn't go quietly. Not without a fight. When we left the conference room, the hall outside felt brighter, like the fluorescent lights had shifted from interrogation mode to freedom mode. Morales walked ahead, speaking with the officers. Rachel walked beside me. "You did this," she said softly. "You saved yourself." "No," I said. "I'm saving myself." Present tense. She gave me a look, one of respect, one of warning, then brace yourself, because the fallout is coming, and it did. But not in the way anyone expected. As we reached the lobby, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You made a mistake." A second followed. "This isn't over." The elevator dinged behind us, and Rachel saw my face. "What is it?" I showed her the screen. She inhaled. "That's a threat." "No," I said, staring at the words, "that's fear." But she was right about one thing. The climax wasn't finished. The public arrest was only the first explosion. The real detonation, the full unraveling of the people who tried to bury me, was still ahead. The threat on my phone didn't scare me. It clarified what came next. People who lose control lash out. And the Carter family had just watched their entire scheme implode in a single morning. They weren't going to retreat with grace. They were going to scramble. They were going to grasp. They were going to get sloppy. Good. Sloppy people leave evidence. Rachel and I stepped outside the bank into the cold, midday air. McLean traffic hummed in the distance, steady and uncaring, as if the world hadn't just tilted on its axis inside a glass conference room. "Don't respond to that number," Rachel said. "Forward it to Morales." "I will." But as we walked toward my car, a black SUV turned sharply into the lot, tires screeching over pavement. It stopped too close, aggressive, deliberate. The passenger door flew open, and Cole climbed out, sunglasses on despite the cloud-heavy sky. He spotted me and charged forward. Rachel stepped between us instantly, back up. But Cole didn't look at her. He only had eyes for me, fury pulsing from him like heat. He jabbed a finger toward my face. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded. "They arrested him." "Liam's in cuffs because of you." I didn't flinch. He got himself arrested. "You think you're smart?" he spat. "You think you won something today?" "I didn't win," I said. "I survived." He laughed, a harsh, choking sound. "You just killed your own husband's future." "He tried to kill mine," I said. "Difference is, I succeeded." He lunged. But Rachel and two officers stepped forward at the same time. Morales had seen the commotion from the lobby and hurried outside. "Mr. Carter," she called, voice calm but edged with steel. "Step back." "Now," Cole ignored her. His rage was too fresh, too hot. "This isn't over, Ava. You hear me? You destroyed our family." "No," I said quietly. "Your family destroyed itself." Morales moved in front of him. "Sir, I'm telling you one last time. Step back." Cole hesitated, chest heaving. He looked at me with a hatred so intense it almost buzzed in the air. But then a small voice inside him realized what his next arrest would cost him. He backed away. "I'm not done," he muttered. "I know," I said, "but I am." He froze for just a moment, like he wasn't expecting calm. He was expecting fear, tears, trembling, his power source, but I wasn't giving him any. He turned abruptly, stomped back to the SUV, and slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Rachel exhaled. "He's unhinged. He's desperate," I corrected. "Desperate people make mistakes." As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. A new text. This time, from a name I recognized. "Evelyn, we need to talk. Now. Talk." The same word Liam used minutes before the cuffs tightened. Rachel peered over my shoulder. "She's panicking." "No," I said. "She's plotting." There was no version of reality where Evelyn accepted losing her power gracefully. She'd spent years shaping her family like clay, bending, pressing, molding. The moment she felt the clay slip, she pressed harder. Morales approached us. "You okay? Yes, you should head home," she said, "but expect contact from our office. We'll need more statements. We'll be ready," Rachel said. We walked to my car, the quiet between us heavy but steady. "When do you want me to tell Harper?" I asked. Rachel paused before answering. Tonight. Before she hears it from someone else. Right. I drove home with Rachel, following in her car for safety. Part of me expected another SUV to tail us, another attempt by Cole to flex power. But nothing came. The drive was silent, eerie in its stillness, like the world was holding its breath. When I pulled into the driveway, I spotted a familiar blue sedan idling near the curb, Evelyn's. Of course, she stepped out before I even turned off the engine, wrapped in a fur coat, clutching her purse like armor, face twisted in a blend of panic, fury, and something I'd never seen from her before. Fear, real fear. She stormed toward me the second I opened the car door. "How could you?" she hissed. "How could you do this to my son?" I closed the door calmly. Rachel parked behind me and stepped out, staying close. "I didn't do anything to Liam," I said. "He made his own choices." "Don't you dare," she snarled. "My son is a good man. He's stressed. He's overwhelmed. You tricked him. You twisted everything. Poisoning isn't a misunderstanding," I said. "Ava," she said sharply, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You set him up. That's what this is. You set this whole thing up so you could take his money," I blinked. Then laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "His money, yes," she snapped. "You made him look unstable so you could control the assets. Don't pretend you're innocent." Rachel stepped in. "Mrs. Carter, I need you to calm down." But Evelyn wasn't listening. She swung back to me, eyes wild. "He told me everything," she said. "He said you've been acting erratic, obsessed, paranoid. He was trying to help you." "Help," I repeated, "by sending me to Silverwood. That place is respected," she snapped, "and you needed help." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I needed protection for a second, just one." Her mask cracked. I saw it in her eyes. She knew, deep down, beneath the denial, beneath the maternal loyalty, beneath the entitled anger. She knew what her son had done. But Evelyn Carter didn't deal in truth. Truth didn't feed her pride. Truth didn't keep her powerful. So she retreated to the only place she felt safe. Rage. "You won't get away with this," she said. "I'll tell the DA you're lying. I'll tell the judge you're unstable. I'll tell them." "You'll tell them what I ask?" Calmly. She froze. Rachel folded her arms. "You should be very careful, Mrs. Carter. You're a potential suspect." Evelyn paled. "Suspect? Of what conspiracy?" Rachel said, "facilitating a wellness commitment without legal grounds, financial coercion, and depending on what we find on your devices." She tilted her head. "Accessory to attempted murder." Evelyn's lips moved, but no sound came out. She wasn't ready for someone to speak to her like that. No one had ever spoken to her like that. "You," she stammered, "you don't know what you're talking about." Rachel took a step closer. "We know about the emails." "What emails?" Evelyn whispered. "The ones you sent Liam about handling Ava. The ones where you suggested that maybe she wasn't mentally stable anymore. The ones you copied to Cole." Her face drained completely. "You're lying," she whispered. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Would you like to see the printed copies?" For a second, I thought Evelyn might faint. Instead, she took a shaky step back and clutched her purse like she was holding on to the last piece of a collapsing world. Then she whispered the truth she'd been choking on. "I didn't think he'd actually do it." There it was, the confession wrapped in cowardice. "You didn't stop him," I said. "That's enough." Her eyes filled, not with regret, but with humiliation. Losing control was the one thing she couldn't tolerate. "You've ruined us," she whispered. "No," I said. "You ruined yourselves." She stumbled back toward her sedan. "This isn't over." "It is," I said. "Your son made sure of that." She fumbled into the driver's seat and sped off without closing the door properly. The car jerked, swerved, corrected, then disappeared around the corner. Rachel watched her go. "She'll try something else," she said. "I know, and Cole, he already did." "You ready for the last part?" Rachel asked quietly. I nodded, yes. But before we could speak further, the front door opened and Harper ran out, backpack still on. "Mom," she cried, rushing toward me. "What happened? Why is Grandma here? Why did Dad leave with police cars?" I knelt and pulled her close. "Because something wrong happened," I said softly, "and the police are fixing it." She buried her face in my shoulder. "Is he okay?" He will be, I said. And more importantly, we will be. Rachel stepped back, giving us space. The winter wind swirled around us, carrying the last echoes of Evelyn's threats, the last traces of Liam's downfall. But standing there, holding my daughter in the cold light of early afternoon, I knew something with ruthless clarity. The climax wasn't the arrest. It wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't Evelyn's collapse or Cole's rage. The climax was this: me, Harper, and the unbroken silence around us. The moment the noise stopped, the moment the chaos fell away, the moment I realized I was no longer surviving, I was reclaiming. And the people who tried to break me, they were the ones falling apart now. The truth doesn't arrive like a revelation. It arrives like a file folder, thin, unremarkable, but heavy with consequences. And days after Liam's arrest, the truth began unfolding exactly that way. Page after page, evidence layered over evidence, each new piece another nail in the coffin he built with his own hands. The morning after the confrontation, I sat at the dining table with Rachel, Morales, and Agent Price. The windows were cracked open, letting in the sharp, cold air that somehow made everything clearer. Harper was at school with extra security, assigned quietly, discreetly. She didn't need to know her life was now a ripple effect of someone else's crimes. Rachel placed a folder on the table. "This," she said, "is where we start." Inside were documents, some familiar, some horrifyingly new. The first page was a printed screenshot of Liam's cloud backups, the ones he thought he'd deleted. Morales slid it toward me. He tried to wipe his digital history, but Jasmine's system stored everything. Auto-sync every 10 minutes. She pointed to timestamps. "This one is your smoking gun." The footage showed Liam in our kitchen on the night he punched the wall. He paced, cursed under his breath, then sat at the counter logging into what he believed was my trust account. His face was twisted with panic, sweat beading along his hairline. 3 login attempts, Price said. He tried to move funds to an account under his name. "That's clear financial fraud." I stared at the screen, not with shock. "With confirmation? Keep going," I said. Rachel flipped to the next set of documents emails. These were worse. Far worse. Liam emailed a journalist, she explained. 3 weeks before the poisoning attempt, she read aloud. "If anything ever happens to Ava, stress, exhaustion, accident, the legacy of her work should be protected. I'm the one who understands it best." I felt my stomach harden. He was preparing the world, yes, Rachel said, preparing the narrative, that you were fragile, overworked, that your death or breakdown would be tragic but understandable, Morales added. And Evelyn was helping. She slid another set of printed messages toward me. These were from Evelyn to Liam and Cole. "Ava doesn't look well lately. Maybe a doctor should evaluate her. If she's losing grip, you need to act fast before the money is locked. Cole says Silverwood has an opening, if we time this right." My jaw clenched so tightly it ached. "They built a story," I whispered, "a narrative where I was incompetent, a danger to myself, convenient for them." "Exactly," Rachel said. "This goes far beyond poisoning. This is a conspiracy to remove you from your own life." Price nodded. "That gives us grounds to investigate all parties." I should have felt vindicated, relieved, maybe proud that my careful planning had led here. But all I felt was something colder, an ache deep inside me that tasted like grief. Not for Liam, for the years I gave him, for the trust I wasted, for the version of me that didn't know better. "Next," I said, steadying my voice. The next file belonged to Mason Reed. Rachel looked at me carefully before continuing. "This part might surprise you." Mason had forwarded an email he received from Liam months earlier. "If Ava has a breakdown, we'll need someone to explain the data inconsistencies in her research. You'd be helping protect her reputation." He'd been trying to recruit Mason to twist him into an accomplice. Another page. Screenshots of wire transfers. Small, sporadic. From my lab account to Mason. Morales explained, "We initially thought Mason was siphoning funds. Turns out those were reimbursements you made privately. Liam tried to use them as evidence that Mason was blackmailing you." I closed my eyes. Of course Liam would use my kindness as a weapon. There was more. Printouts of Silverwood documents Monica had forgotten to share. Pre-filled commitment forms with my name. A letter drafted, but never sent requesting expedited psychiatric evaluation. Rachel tapped the pages. This proves intent. They weren't improvising, Ava. They were strategizing. I know, I said. I felt it. Morales leaned forward. But now you can prove it. That mattered more than anything, because feelings don't win cases. Evidence does. Price shifted to the final tab. And here, he said, is the part that closes the loop, the lab results. The toxicology report confirmed aconite in Evelyn's bloodstream. But there was an additional note from the state lab. Traces of the same compound found on the outer lip and inner base of the chipped crystal flute provided by Ava Carter. The room went quiet. For a moment, all I heard was my own heartbeat, slow, steady, unwavering. That glass saved your life, Rachel murmured. No, I said. My eyes did. Price sat back. With these findings, the DA can pursue full charges: attempted first-degree murder, fraud, conspiracy, and elder endangerment. I nodded slowly. Good, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. Because there was one more truth, one more piece of the puzzle only I could provide. I reached under the table and pulled out my grandmother's leather-bound lab journal, my own private record. I opened it to the timeline I'd started the night of the attack. Dates, times, details, behavioral notes, every lie he told, every sudden mood shift, every suspicious financial move, every conversation Harper overheard, every visit Evelyn made. I slid it across the table to Morales. This is my counter move. She opened it, eyes widening. Ava, this is meticulous. It's what I do, I said simply. I document things. I analyze patterns. I don't forget. Rachel squeezed my hand. This, combined with everything else? It's over. But I wasn't smiling. Not yet. Because the truth wasn't victory. The truth was exposure. And exposure has consequences. Truth doesn't just reveal villains. It reveals the architecture of the world they built, the lies they leaned on, the people they used, the foundations they cracked with every secret they whispered in the dark. And once the truth is fully exposed, there is only one thing left to do: confront the fallout. 2 days after the evidence review, Morales called with an update. We executed search warrants, she said. You're going to want to sit down. I didn't. I stood in my kitchen with the phone pressed to my ear, staring at the window where sunlight spilled across the sink. My house had never felt quieter. We found aconite, she continued, in your garage storage, behind old paint cans. Not a lot, just enough to confirm he kept a supply. My breath stilled. He brought poison into my home. Yes, she said gently. And he hid it somewhere. Only someone trying to avoid suspicion would choose. There was more. Then there's the storage unit. What storage unit? The one under Evelyn's name, of course. Of course, Evelyn wasn't just a bystander with sharp opinions and poisonous words. She had been part of the machinery. She always was. We recovered several boxes, Morales said. Drafts of letters to Silverwood, detailed notes about the trust, and a binder labeled Care Options for Ava. My stomach tightened. Care options. Yes, she said. It's clear she was preparing for the possibility, maybe even expectation, that Liam would remove you from your life. A quiet, pulsing anger spread through my chest. I wasn't sure if it was fury or grief. Maybe both. And what about Cole? I asked. Debt records. Morales said. 3 different lenders, 2 illegal. Liam promised repayment through your assets. The lenders are cooperating. Good. Let them all turn on each other. Predators cannibalize their own when cornered. After we hung up, I sat alone at the dining table, staring at the grain of the wood. There was a quiet that felt almost sacred. Not relief, not triumph, something deeper. A recognition that the people who claimed to love me had architected my downfall with more dedication than they'd ever shown my dreams. But there was still one piece missing, one voice that hadn't been heard yet. Harper's. That evening, after dinner, we sat together on her bed. She fiddled with her robot kit, eyes down, hands restless. Mom, she said softly, is Dad coming home? I took a breath. Not for a long time. She looked up, searching my face for fear, for anger, for something she could anchor to. I kept my expression gentle. She whispered, Did he really try to hurt you? This was the moment. The hinge. The point where truth either wounds or frees, sometimes both. Yes, I said. He did. She didn't cry. She didn't gasp. Instead, she nodded slowly, like she'd already known, but needed permission to believe it. I recorded something, she said suddenly. Voice small. Do you want to hear it? Only if you want me to. She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small recorder. Pressed play. Liam's voice filled the room, muffled but unmistakable. If your mom needs help, you'll stay with me. She won't be gone forever, just until she's better. You don't need to worry about her being confused. I'll handle things. My throat tightened. Harper paused the recording. I didn't like how he said it. It sounded like he wanted you gone. I cupped her cheek. You're very brave. Are you mad at me for recording him? No, I said, pulling her into my arms. I'm proud of you. You helped protect us, she exhaled, a small, shuddering sound, and melted into my shoulder. Later that night, Rachel and Morales came to collect the recording. Harper watched from the stairs as I handed it over. This helps tie the narrative together, Morales said. Intent, manipulation, and proof that he was prepping her for your removal. The truth was no longer scattered pieces. It was a weapon. A clean, precise blade. When the door closed behind them, I returned to my grandmother's chipped crystal flute, now sealed in an evidence bag on my counter. I stared at it, at the faint line of the crack that had once made it charming, now damning. My reflection stared back from the curve of the glass. Not the woman Liam tried to erase. The woman who survived him. I picked it up gently. Its weight felt different now, not sentimental, not celebratory. It was a relic of everything I endured and everything I reclaimed. This was your last move, I whispered. Now here's mine. Because truth wasn't the end. Truth was the moment before the end, the breath before the final note. And my countermove, my real countermove, wasn't exposing Liam. It was rebuilding a life he could no longer touch. A life where Harper felt safe, where my work belonged only to me, where my name wasn't attached to a man who treated me like an obstacle. The next morning, I called the DA's office. I'm ready for the formal statement, I said. My voice was steady, grounded, unshakable. The truth had done its job. Now it was time for justice to finish the rest. Healing doesn't arrive like victory music. It arrives quietly, so quietly you almost miss it. A soft morning, a room that feels bigger than it used to, a breath that doesn't feel stolen. 6 weeks after Liam's arrest, winter began to loosen its grip on Alexandria. The air was still sharp, but lighter, less heavy with dread. The days stretched a little longer. Sunlight lingered on my kitchen floor, as if it had finally decided my home was worthy of warmth again. Life didn't snap back. It rebuilt itself in small, deliberate steps. The first step was reclaiming the house. I walked through every room with a box and a trash bag. Liam's old shoes, gone. His stack of fitness magazines, gone. The cologne he bought to impress people at networking events, gone. Each discarded relic felt like plucking thorns from the air. His office, once a shrine to performative ambition, became my lab annex. I installed a second workstation, a drying rack for filters, a shelf for Harper's robotics parts. The room that once smelled like aftershave and stress now smelled like ethanol and soldering metal. The house wasn't quieter without him. It was clearer. Harper thrived in the clarity. She asked more questions. She slept through the night. She started humming again, little melodies she made up while tinkering with wires. She'd come home from school and open her notebook with a spark in her eye. "Mom," she said one evening, "my team wants to build a water quality sensor. I said we could make it detect toxins." "Good," I told her. "Build what the world needs." She grinned, a real, full grin I hadn't seen since before the poisoning. "They want me to lead the project, you should." She paused. Dad never liked when I was in charge. I knelt next to her. "Then that's all the more reason to do it." And she did. Meanwhile, Evelyn and Cole were feeling their empire crumble. Morales updated me periodically. The illegal lenders had turned on Cole. Evelyn's emails had implicated her more deeply than she realized. They weren't in jail. Not yet, but their confidence had evaporated. Their messages stopped. Their cars stopped appearing on my street. They were fading into the background of their own destruction. 1 month after the arrest, I drove to the courthouse for a bail hearing, not for closure, but because I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. Liam entered the courtroom wearing a county-issued jumpsuit instead of his tailored suits. His hair hung limp, his face gray with exhaustion. He scanned the room, searching for me. When he found me, his expression softened into something almost pleading. I didn't look away. I didn't blink. And I didn't feel sorry. He mouthed something. Please. I shook my head once. No. The judge denied bail. When they let him out, his shoulders sagged under a weight he finally had to carry alone. Afterward, sitting in my car, I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I simply breathed. A long, steady breath that tasted like freedom. The next step in rebuilding was creating a boundary where the old version of me had none. I changed my routines, locked the doors at new times, took self-defense classes with Harper so she'd learn confidence without fear. I set strict digital protections, two-factor authentication, encrypted backups, new cloud systems unrelated to anything Liam ever touched. I hired a financial manager to oversee the patent income. A woman named Naya Sharp, kind, no nonsense. She didn't treat me like an ATM or a dependent. She treated me like a partner. You did everything alone for too long, she told me during our first meeting. Now you get to build with people who don't take from you. It felt strange to trust again, but refreshing too, like stepping into a clean room after years of breathing dust. And my work came back stronger. With the funds from the patent, I opened a small lab extension downtown. Just a rented floor at first, then a full unit. I hired 2 assistants, built a filtration prototype that could be used in lower-income communities. I turned survival into purpose, pain into progress, fear into fuel. But the biggest change wasn't the lab or the house or the finances. It was me. One evening in early spring, Harper made pancakes for dinner, thick, uneven ones, with too much vanilla. We ate them at the counter, with syrup dripping onto our plates as the sunset cast warm gold light across the kitchen walls. Harper laughed at something simple and silly, but the sound filled the house like hope. I poured myself coffee into a ceramic mug she and I had painted together. It had uneven blue stripes and lopsided stars. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, nothing from a collection. It wasn't the cracked crystal flute. It was something better, something ours. As I lifted the mug, I realized the symbol of my past, the glass that almost ended my life, was no longer in this house. It existed only in an evidence locker and in courtroom photos. The future lived here, in hand-painted mugs, in robotics parts on the table, in Harper's humming, in the smell of pancakes and warm light, and in me, a woman who'd finally stopped apologizing for her strength. Spring arrived quietly, the way new beginnings often do, soft, light on the windowsills, warmer mornings, the faint scent of rain drifting through cracked open windows. Life didn't return to what it was before Liam. It built something new over the ruins he left behind. A month after the bail hearing, I woke up to the sound of Harper knocking gently on my bedroom door. "Mom," she whispered, "you have to see this." I followed her to the backyard. Overnight, the hydrangeas she planted last year, the ones that had nearly withered during the months of chaos, had begun blooming again. Pale blue, fragile, but alive. "They're growing," Harper said, smiling. "So are we," I replied. And we were. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I woke with energy humming through my veins. Other days, shadows stretched longer than they should. There were mornings when I'd still reach for my phone expecting a text from Liam, some patronizing reminder about a meeting or a fake encouragement wrapped in ego. But the silence that followed was no longer sharp. It was clean, wide, free. The DA's office moved quickly. With the overwhelming evidence, video logs, search history, the poisoned glass, the financial trail, Harper's recording, Evelyn's emails, the case was airtight. Liam's lawyer filed motions, tried to suppress evidence, tried to reframe the narrative as a marital misunderstanding. Nothing stuck. The day the plea deal was announced, Rachel met me outside the courthouse. "He's taking it," she said. "Which part?" I asked. "Attempted murder and financial fraud. Minimum 12 years. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Not joy, just release. A pressure valve finally opening. "And Evelyn?" I asked. "Probation and mandatory counseling. She's cooperating now. Classic self-preservation. Cole, he's being investigated for illegal lending and extortion. He'll face charges too. I nodded. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't triumph. It was justice clinical, necessary, and overdue. That evening, Harper and I baked brownies. She wore her favorite hoodie, the one with little embroidered planets on the sleeves. She stirred the batter with exaggerated concentration. When Dad gets out, she said carefully, will he try to come back? No, I said. And if he tries, he won't get far. She didn't look scared. She looked certain. Her certainty made me stronger. Later, after she went to bed, I stepped into my new lab space. The counters gleamed under bright LED lights. My microscope waited like an old friend. On the whiteboard, sketches of an improved filtration prototype covered one full panel. I stood there, breathing in the faint scent of ethanol and fresh plastic. This was my sanctuary, my future, my counter-move made tangible. I picked up a marker and wrote at the top of the board, Version 2, build for those who were never given clean water or clean truths. The next morning, sunlight streamed warm across my living room floor. I made coffee, not in a crystal flute, not in anything fancy, just a sturdy ceramic mug Harper and I had painted with clumsy hearts and crooked stars. The steam curled upward like a small, quiet blessing. I held the mug between both hands, feeling its imperfect warmth, and thought, this is peace. Not the fragile kind, the earned kind. A year ago, I would have believed peace meant safety. Now I understood something different. Peace is ownership. Peace is clarity. Peace is the absence of someone trying to rewrite the story of your life. I walked onto the porch, watching neighbors walk their dogs, joggers passing, delivery trucks humming by. The world looked simple again, not because it was, but because the chaos had been forced out of my home, my body, my mind. Later that afternoon, I sat at my desk and wrote a sentence in my grandmother's old leather journal, the same journal where I'd once mapped Liam's deception. A new final entry. They thought breaking me would end me. Instead, it rebuilt me. And that became my truth, my moral, my signature line, because in the end, revenge wasn't a plan, a poison, or a courtroom victory. Revenge was waking up every morning unafraid. Revenge was Harper thriving. Revenge was seeing my life, my work, my home, my name, no longer chained to someone else's hunger. Revenge was peace. If you've ever rebuilt yourself from the ashes of someone else's betrayal, subscribe. There are more stories like Ava, stories of survival, truth, and quiet, relentless strength. And this story, it isn't over.